Friends, good afternoon. Great to have you back on the channel. Before we get started, quick reminder, hit that bell and subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube simply won't show you new episodes if you're not subscribed, so you'll just keep missing them. Alright, let's get into it. Today there's plenty to cover. Strikes on Kyiv, the escalation question. Let me start with what's on a lot of people's minds right now. Russia's foreign ministry has announced strikes on Kyiv, and we're watching this unfold in real time. The key question here isn't really whether the strikes will happen. It's what kind of strikes we're talking about. Will this be more of the same infrastructure hits we've seen dozens, if not hundreds of times already? Or is something qualitatively different coming? There's another scenario worth considering. The kind of thing Israel has been doing against Iran. Not hitting buildings, not striking an empty parliament building, actually hunting specific decision-makers. Zelensky's bunker, even just an attempt to get close. Budanov. Syrsky, that's the real question right now. Whether Russia moves toward that model or stays within the usual playbook, nobody knows yet. But the question is very much on the table. Meanwhile, the news from the front is pretty solid. Let's go through it. Kharkiv region, North grouping. We'll start where we always do, the zone of responsibility of the North grouping. These guys are grinding every single day, taking settlements, pushing forward. The past 24 hours were no exception, and there's actually more than one piece of good news here. To recap what we're used to seeing on the Kharkiv sector, three main areas. The Liptsy district, essentially static, no movement either way. The Vovchansk sector, active offensive operations, pushing both south and east. The Veliky Burluk sector, offensive with mixed results, some days better than others. Now, the North grouping has opened up a new axis, right on the boundary with the West grouping's zone. It looks like they've essentially claimed that stretch of front for themselves. And the attacks there paid off. Troops pushed 3.5 kilometers deep, entered Novovasilivka, cleared out the opposition and established control over the settlement. What's worth noting is who was holding that ground. Not some batch of conscripts grabbed off the street by military recruiters. This was the Kraken Nationalist Battalion, a structure built under Ukraine's GUR, headquartered in Kharkiv, staffed by ideologically committed Kharkiv nationalists. Designated a terrorist organization in Russia, these are the people who shout loudest about dying for the cause, about never surrendering. And when a serious opponent showed up, they turned around and ran, abandoning their positions. Honestly, not the first time we've seen exactly this. Since we're on the subject of ideological fighters, there's a telling video out of the Sumy border area. A Ukrainian soldier was recently taken prisoner there, covered in swastika tattoos, with "better to die standing than live on your knees" inked on his arm. When a Russian drone caught up with his unit, this ideological warrior immediately dropped to his knees, hands folded, begging to be taken prisoner. The drone captured the whole thing in perfect detail. There was an interview afterwards, no bravado left, visibly shaking in front of the camera, explaining how his entire group was completely wiped out. The tattoos were right there for everyone to see, no denying what they are. That's your committed fighter. What does taking Novovasilivka actually open up? Two directions. Southward, if the West grouping supports with active operations, it becomes possible to link up the sector through Mitrofanivka and Petroivanivka, connecting to Fiholivka. Northward, beginning the encirclement of Kolodezne. That's a serious fortified position that has been blocking further advance across the entire Veliky Burluk sector for a long time. It was always going to have to be dealt with eventually. Now there's a decent platform to do it from. On top of that, on the Vovchansk sector during the same 24-hour period, Karaichne and Budaki were also taken. So the grouping is pushing on multiple axes simultaneously. Looking at the past couple of months overall, the results the North grouping is putting up genuinely exceeded expectations. I didn't predict this myself. The guys are doing phenomenal work. Kostiantynivka direction. South grouping. Now for the main story. Kostiantynivka. What's happening here right now is frankly a catastrophe for the AFU, Armed Forces of Ukraine. Let me recap how we got here. A few days ago we covered it in the broadcast. Part of the AFU garrison, around 150 troops, got caught in a trap in the western part of the city. Russian forces broke through residential high-rise districts, got them in a pincer, and the exit corridor narrowed to 750 meters. AFU troops decided not to repeat the Mirnograd scenario. As a reminder, the surrounded grouping there held out for nearly a month in full encirclement. No communications, no ammunition, no supply, before it was finally finished off. So this time they got out through that corridor. Some people ask, why let them go? Why not seal the pocket? The answer is straightforward. Closing a pocket on a map and closing it on the ground are two different things. In small groups of 2 or 3, they'd have been slipping through any line regardless, and dealing with the holdouts would have taken at minimum 3 weeks. The fact that they left and a substantial chunk of the city came under control within a couple of days. That's actually the best possible outcome. Now here's what's happening today. Kostiantynivka breaks into 3 parts. The southern section, the northern section on the other side of the Kryvyi Torets River, and a large elongated industrial zone running through the center. The remnants of the garrison had been clinging to that industrial zone. Russian forces crossed the Kryvyi Torets, and forward positions were confirmed already inside the central industrial zone. The southern exit corridor closed. The entire southern part of the city is now under Russian control. Yes, there'll be pockets of resistance. Some fighters hiding in basements, clearance operations ongoing. We saw exactly this in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. It's standard. But the organized defense in the southern part of the city has collapsed completely. Footage of surrendering AFU troops should start coming in soon. One more important detail, all AFU drone operators left the city. FPV crews, reconnaissance UAV teams, gone. For Russian infantry, this is a significant relief. Moving through the city just got considerably safer, and the pace of advance will pick up accordingly. What's next? One pocket closes and another immediately takes shape. The AFU remnants in the northern part of the city are now squeezed into a corridor under 1 kilometer wide. Russian drone operators have full coverage of the entire exit. Nobody moves through there unnoticed. One grouping is pressing from the south, fresh from finishing the southern section. Another is advancing from the direction of Novodmitrivka to meet it. If the current tempo holds, this pocket closes within days. At that point, roughly 60% of the city will be under Russian control. With all that said, I'd still caution against jumping to conclusions. The gains are real and significant, no question, but Kostiantynivka hasn't fallen yet. Fighting continues. Saying just a little more and it's done is premature. We keep watching. Other sectors, Zaporizhzhia direction, eastern flank, initiative stays with Russian forces. Vozvyzhivka was taken yesterday, a well-fortified settlement that AFU had been holding on to for a long time. Fighting is now ongoing further south, near Hulyaypole. Essentially, Russian forces are breaking through the last defensive line covering Orikhiv. Western flank of Zaporizhzhia, the picture is reversed. AFU are on the offensive here, and this is one of the very few sectors where they're actually producing results right now. Most of Stepnohursk is already under them. They're also pressing on Kamyanske from the east. Worth keeping in perspective though, from Stepnohursk itself, there's practically nothing left at this point. Ruins, broken walls. That's what both sides are fighting over, and it's worth showing what this actually looks like on the ground. What was once a small town is now a landscape of rubble. Both sides are scrapping over the last remaining fragments of multi-story buildings. Russian forces are still holding the southern part of the settlement, clinging to whatever structures remain standing. Alexandrograd area. AFU are attempting to advance and pulled 2 brigades from the Sumy region to do it. Honestly, the decision is hard to understand. The Sumy region is under serious pressure. The north grouping is pushing there very actively, and in the middle of that, pulling 2 brigades out and sending them to a sector with very limited prospects is, to put it mildly, questionable. They might push through to Podun or try to enter Komar, but logistics across the river will be brutal for them, and the absence of those 2 brigades in the Sumy region will be felt. Mark my words, if they want to trade pressure on Sumy for a fight over Komar, well, that's their choice. 24-hour summary. Over the past 24 hours, 3 settlements came under Russian army control, along with just over 10 square kilometers of territory. Add to that full control over the southern part of Kostiantynivka, which in terms of operational significance outweighs much of what's happened in recent weeks. Geopolitics. Merkel, Zelensky, Iran. I've said many times that this war won't end before 2040. Looks like Angela Merkel has been watching the channel. She recently stated that the war will last at minimum 10 years. I'm saying 15, so I haven't fully converted her yet. Still, it's nice. That's a quality viewer right there. Now Zelensky's letter to Trump, 5 full pages. I expected something short. Turned out to be quite a document. Though honestly, everything in it could have fit in 1 paragraph. Why so much? Trump doesn't read things like this anyway. The final paragraph, in my own words, Zelensky writes that on behalf of the Ukrainian people, he respectfully requests, essentially presenting it like a petition to a Tsar, the President and Congress of the United States, to remain engaged, continue support, and help with the critical need. Patriot Parka-3 missiles and additional air defense systems to intercept Russian ballistic missiles and other Russian missile attacks. It closes with Ukraine wanting peace, not an expansion of Russia's missile war. Life will prevail. God bless America. Signed, with gratitude, Volodymyr Zelensky. The short version of all 5 pages. We're suffering, holding back Russian aggression alone, protecting not just Europe, but the entire North Atlantic Alliance and its security. Russia has the advantage in ballistic missiles. We have nothing to shoot them down with except Patriots. So give us more weapons, more money, and we'll keep fighting. There's also the Pearl system. That's the one where America sells to Europe and Europe supplies to Ukraine. It's useful to have, but there are very few missiles left in that pipeline, as everyone understands, since they're needed elsewhere too. And wall-to-wall gratitude to Trump and the American people on every page, plus regular thanks for everything happening in Iran. 5 pages of that, essentially. On the point about the US needing to remain engaged, if Washington hadn't been involved in Ukrainian affairs since the 90s, this war wouldn't exist at all. Zelensky might have become president, sure, but he'd have left after 1 term. As it stands, permanent leader, no need to deal with the economy, opposition is managed, finances are in order, property under construction somewhere. Everything is fine, so yes, God bless America. Makes complete sense, and maybe he could have added something about Ukraine at the end too, even in pencil, but that's just how it is. Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz. Where are all the patriots that Ukraine so desperately needs actually going? To the Middle East. The Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Whatever negotiations are happening aren't producing anything. Israel continues striking Iran and Lebanon with threats to cut Lebanon's power grid entirely. There's no ceasefire in sight anywhere. Looking at oil prices, not particularly high, honestly. Traders are clearly hoping for something, watching for any sign of progress in US-Iran talks. There was already a statement today on this. Here's the thing. I'm not going to tell traders to subscribe to anyone's channel on this one, because unlike Ukraine and Russia, where I'm absolutely certain the two cannot coexist on the same geopolitical map, with the US and Iran, I genuinely have a different view. A deal is at least conceivable. It's quite possible they work something out. But for now, Iran is sitting in a very comfortable position. It doesn't need to do anything, just keep the Strait of Hormuz closed and watch everyone else scramble and think. Probably some kind of resolution comes by the end of the year. Or it doesn't come at all. Iran could simply declare, the strait is mine, do what you like. That's essentially what it's already doing. I'd do the same thing in their position, anyone would. And in parallel, I'm more than confident Iran is actively working on its nuclear program. Because everyone understands perfectly well, the moment Iran has a nuclear weapon, nobody touches it. That's obvious, which is why America and Israel are in such an uncomfortable position right now. They can't make progress on the nuclear question, can't unblock the Strait of Hormuz, and can't achieve it by force either. The whole situation keeps playing to the advantage of Iran, China, and Russia, the so-called axis of evil, as they put it. And Iran just needs to keep doing what it's doing without even breaking a sweat. Interesting times ahead. That's all for today. Drop a like if the episode was useful. subscribe, hit the bell, and see you in the next one.